He walked into the camp voluntarily, not because he was forced, not because he had no other choice, because he chose it. Most people think of Auschwitz as a place you ended up, a destination at the end of a chain of impossible circumstances. But on September 19, 1940, a 39-year-old Polish cavalry officer walked into a Nazi street roundup in Warsaw on purpose. He carried false identity papers. He intended to be arrested. His goal was to be sent to the worst place on earth. The question isn't why he did it. The question is what kind of man looks at a death machine and decides he needs to be inside it. His name was Witold Pilecki, and by the time this story ends, you'll understand why Poland's chief rabbi once said that when God created humanity, he had in mind that we should all be like this man. You'll also understand why, for nearly 50 years, his own country tried to erase him from history. On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland from the west. 2 weeks later, the Soviet Union attacked from the east. In just over a month, the Polish army was defeated. The country was carved in half by two of the most powerful militaries in the world, but Poland did not surrender. It went underground. Before the war, Pilecki was living a quiet life. He was a farmer in eastern Poland, married, father to two young children, Andrzej, born in 1932, and Zofia, born in 1933. He ran a dairy, led the local volunteer fire brigade, trained young men in cavalry riding. An ordinary man, living an ordinary life. But when the Nazis came, something in him shifted. Within weeks of the invasion, on November 9, 1939, Pilecki co-founded the secret Polish Army, one of the first underground resistance movements in occupied Europe. He went from tending clover fields to organizing covert operations against the most dangerous regime in modern history. By the summer of 1940, troubling rumors were reaching Warsaw. The Germans had built a new camp near the town of Auschwitz. Polish political prisoners were being sent there. Telegrams were arriving to inform families of deaths. No one who went in seemed to come back out. The resistance needed eyes inside, and Pilecki, already known for his willingness to take on the missions no one else wanted, volunteered. Try to sit with that for a moment. He had 2 children under the age of 10. He had a wife. He knew that what he was walking into might kill him, and he said yes anyway. On September 19, 1940, Pilecki stepped out into a Warsaw street during a Nazi roundup. He carried false papers identifying him as Tomasz Serafiński, a tanner by trade. He was detained alongside roughly 2,000 other Polish civilians. For 2 days, they were held in a cavalry barracks, beaten with rubber truncheons. Then they were loaded onto transports. When Pilecki arrived at Auschwitz, he was assigned prisoner number 4859. He was now inside the machine, and the machine was worse than anyone on the outside had imagined. In 1940, Auschwitz was not yet the industrialized extermination center it would become. It was a work camp and a prison camp. But the conditions were already beyond comprehension. Starvation rations, forced labor from dawn until collapse, random beatings, executions carried out in front of other prisoners as a warning. The average life expectancy of a new prisoner was measured in weeks. Pilecki later wrote that the word dangerous didn't come close to describing what he was doing. He said he had gone far beyond what people in the real world would consider dangerous. But Pilecki didn't survive by hiding. He survived by building. Within weeks of arriving, he began organizing a secret resistance network inside the camp. He called it the WWII, the Union of Military Organizations. The structure was deliberate, small cells of 5 prisoners each. No cell knew the members of another cell. If one group was discovered and tortured, the rest could survive. He recruited across work details, across nationalities, across the internal hierarchies the Nazis had designed to keep prisoners divided. In a place built to strip people of their humanity, Pilecki was quietly giving them something to believe in. Starting in October 1940, barely a month after he arrived, Pilecki began smuggling intelligence reports out of the camp. Released prisoners carried them in their memories. Escaped prisoners carried them in their clothes. Civilian workers smuggled them in their pockets. These reports reached the Polish resistance in Warsaw, then the Polish government in exile in London by March 1941, and from there, the British government and the Allied powers. They described the systematic killings, the gas chambers, the selections, crematoria capable of burning 8,000 bodies a day. These were among the first comprehensive eyewitness accounts of the Holocaust to reach the outside world. And the Allies read them, and they did nothing. Pilecki begged for action. He asked the Allies to bomb the camp. He asked them to support an armed uprising from within. He laid out the evidence: names, numbers, dates, locations, the architecture of industrialized murder. The response was silence. The Allies considered his reports exaggerated. Let that sit. A man risked his life every single day for nearly 3 years to tell the world what was happening, and the world decided it couldn't possibly be that bad. By 1943, the Gestapo was closing in on WWII members. Key leaders were being identified and killed. Pilecki realized that if he was caught, everything he knew, the network, the intelligence, the names, would die with him. On the night of April 26, 1943, after 945 days inside Auschwitz, Pilecki and 2 fellow prisoners made their move. They had been assigned to the camp bakery, located outside the main fence. They cut the phone and alarm lines. They overpowered a guard. They opened the front door with a duplicate key they'd made weeks earlier. And then they ran. German patrols searched for them with dogs and gunfire. The three men ran through the night, hid during the day, drank from streams, ate scraps they'd smuggled out. After days on the run, they reached friendly territory. Pilecki carried with him a document that would later become known as Witold's Report, one of the most comprehensive first-hand accounts of the Holocaust ever written. It detailed the gas chambers, the selections, the sterilization experiments, the scale of the killing. It was the truth, and still, no one acted on it. Pilecki wasn't done fighting. In August 1944, he joined the Warsaw Uprising as a common soldier, hiding his rank at first because he didn't want special treatment. When officers were killed in the early days, he revealed his identity and took command. The uprising was crushed. Pilecki was captured by the Germans and spent the rest of the war in a POW camp. When the war ended, he was sent to Italy, where he joined the Polish armed forces and finally compiled his full report on Auschwitz. But Poland was no longer free. The Soviets had replaced the Nazis, and the new communist government saw men like Pilecki as a threat. Despite his safety in Italy, Pilecki voluntarily returned to Poland in late 1945. A father of two, walking back into danger again, because his country still wasn't free and he couldn't look away. On May 8, 1947, the secret police arrested him. He was tortured. He was forced to sign a false confession. His trial lasted from March 3 to March 15, 1948. He was not permitted to testify. There were no defending witnesses. On May 25, 1948, Witold Pilecki was executed with a single shot to the back of the head. He was 47 years old. His last known words to his wife were, "I cannot live. They killed me," because Auschwitz compared to them was just a trifle. The communist government erased his name from the history books. For over 40 years, if anyone in Poland knew the name Witold Pilecki at all, they knew him as a traitor. It wasn't until 1990, after the fall of communism, that Poland officially recognized him as a hero. Witold Pilecki volunteered for the unthinkable. He spent 945 days building a resistance network inside the most notorious death camp in human history. He smuggled out evidence that reached the highest levels of Allied government. He escaped. He kept fighting. And then the country he gave everything to killed him for it and buried his name for half a century. Today, he is recognized as one of the greatest resistance fighters of the Second World War. But his story almost disappeared. And that's why we tell these stories. Because the most extraordinary acts of courage in human history are often the ones that almost got erased. If this story moved you, subscribe. Because next week, we're telling the story of the women who broke the Nazi code and changed the course of the war.